Welcome to Into the Unknown with Mike and John, Season 2, Episode 4. So if you recall John mentioning a cryptid creature that eats children, well, this is the episode.
We're going to meet this guy,
Yeah.
this cryptid
Yes.
that eats children.
Yeah.
Are you a little scared?
I am a little
quite
nervous. Intimidated, too.
I don't think we need to be nervous.
You don't think so?
No, I think it's going to be he's going to turn out to be a very nice guy.
Well, Angie assures me that he's a very nice fellow.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Hey, gang, we've got an interview coming up, and we're going to throw to that in just a second. But there's a couple of things that we're just going to point out.
Yeah, maybe just orient the audience to.
Yeah. Well, one is just that, as the tech guy, I had a tech issue right in the middle. We were about 30 minutes in, and the equipment cut out. Yeah, but then later, before we started recording, John.
Yeah, so this is I mentioned to Mike that I had done my research by listening to 2 other podcasts that our guest appeared on, and in both of those other podcasts with 2 completely different podcasters. He also experienced a technical difficulty in the middle of it. One of them, it was another cutout. I remember that very clearly, that the connection between them cut out. Now, in those cases, I think he was calling in. So I thought, okay, well, we'll be fine because he's going to be here in person.
Right.
What could go wrong? And then, it's an odd synchronicity, isn't it?
It's odd. I mean, that's the kind of thing that happens. And if it's not John Long, our guest, it's Angie.
Yeah. Also a possibility.
Angie, because she stops electrical equipment sometimes. Okay. But anyway, so we thought we would point that out. And so we had a really good discussion with John Long, the Baltimore Krampus.
Baltimore Krampus.
Yeah.
Krampus. I think he says Krampus.
Says he does.
I go Krampus. He says Krampus. You say potato. I say potato.
You say Krampus. Okay. Well, let's throw it that way and enjoy the interview with John Long, the Baltimore Krampus. Joining John and I today in our undisclosed studio location is a special guest. With Christmas fast approaching, we think you will find our discussion with John Long really relevant and really intriguing. Welcome, John Long. So nice to have you here.
Thank you. A pleasure to be here today.
I'm so excited. I have been a fan for a long time. I have been following your Facebook page for years. And you probably don't remember this, but I do. Maybe it was my last trip to the Renfest 3 years ago, maybe. And I saw you across the crowd because it was that tight, and I just pointed at you, and you saw me and pointed back because you were all Krampused up. All right, but I remember that, so if I fanboy a little bit, you know why.
Krampus at the Renaissance Festival is always a hoot. It's amazing because most of the reactions are people are like, Krampus! And then they run over to you or they go, a little early for you. And I'm like, I've got to scout the naughty out all year round, you know? It just,
Yeah.
And then people are like, oh, do you get Santa's naughty list? I go, you got that wrong. It's my naughty list that I let Santa look at. You got to get that, I go, he might be the one who sees you when you're sleeping, but I'm the one that's writing it down. So.
There's rules here. I'm hearing rules, and I love this.
Yeah, this is going to be fun.
Exciting.
This is going to be fun. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. I think we need to talk about
that's
John.
wetting the whistle.
Yes.
Yeah, we should talk about John because
first. Yeah.
And the fact that you like the Renaissance Festival too is that's a plus.
I was actually a professional jouster there when the Renaissance Festival, before it became corporate.
Wow.
Back when it was owned by a husband and wife that they were the ones that started it, and they were the ones that initially moved it to Crownsville, and I was part of the jousting team. And
wow.
After as normally happens, the corporation purchases everything, then they start, changing things,
Sure.
and, moving their own people into positions. But yeah, people would come up to us all the time and be like, "Who's going to win today? Who's going to win today?" And we're like, we don't know because we're really jousting.
Actually jousting.
Yeah,
so just to be clear, you were jousting as John Long, right? Or did you have a character that you were jousting as?
Really, it was just I can't even remember what the name was back then. It was so long ago. But they gave us all names so that sounded medieval, so that way
Yes.
they could root for us and stuff like that. But
Sure.
we actually had to have a full-time armorer on staff because after every battle, he was sitting there pounding
Taking
the
the dents
dents out of
out.
our
Yeah.
Oh, my
armor and
gosh.
stuff. And people watch that too because they're like, "This proves this is real
real.
here, dude." You
Right.
know?
And what
Right.
kind of
You hear
training
that
would you
sound?
get for that? I mean, you must have had to learn how to wield
Oh,
a long sword,
learning how to
the
fall
lance.
was the big thing. Off of a horse without breaking your neck was the big
Right.
thing. And yeah, it was, it was fun. I started out in the SCA, and that's how I learned
Oh, okay.
how to swing and things like that properly. But then, once you're using real steel, it's a different animal. So I kind of had to retrain my mind on some of that stuff. But it was little easier for the swinging and all, even though it was heavier. It was more balanced than like a rattan staff and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it was one of those things that, once you start doing it, muscle memory, like with
Yeah.
athletes that are, much more highly trained than I was, but
Right.
it was a good time. It was. I mean, of course I still, can tell when weather's coming in my knees and stuff for some of those falls, but
Oh my God.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you take damage as you get up there. Yeah, for sure. So, John, I think you definitely had some questions that I know
I've
you
got
wanted
questions.
to dive in on. There's literally hundreds of little avenues we can walk down.
Yeah.
Why don't you pick one for us and
let's just start with
There you go.
So we talked a little bit before we started recording about your personal history, your family history. So it sounds like you're basically from the Baltimore area.
I am.
Okay. What do you do when you're not Krampus? Let's start there. Yeah. And you can, and I know you're cagey about a few things, and that's understandable, but you sound like you have a fascinating resume. So, whatever you want to throw out there just to give us an idea.
I'm a member of the board of directors for the National Edgar Allan Poe Theater, which I'm very passionate about. I've always been passionate about Poe and literature and some of the forefathers of creepy authorship. I mean, all of the modern authors, usually cite people like Poe and H.P. Lovecraft as being inspiration.
Oh,
what
sure.
got them into it. So I think that it's very important that we remember where we came from as far
Yeah.
as these guys were the stepping stones. I mean, Poe, just phenomenal. I mean, the guy who invented the short story, the man who
Sure.
invented the
Yeah.
detective novel.
That's
I mean,
right.
so many different genres that didn't exist before him.
Even Wilkie Collins, right?
Yep.
You're very familiar with Wilkie Collins? That was
Yes.
one of
Yep.
the first detective story writers too. My brother Matt will really
okay.
love that reference. He loves it was the Moonstone, I think it was.
Yeah.
That was the first. So
Even Lovecraft,
You're welcome, Matt.
Even Lovecraft pointed back at Poe.
Exactly.
And used some of the exact language in some of his stories.
Exactly.
right?
And and Poe gets so inappropriate maligned. I am friends with several Poe historians, and they're like, "Oh, he was a drunkard." I was like, "No, he did indulge once in a while, but he was not a drunkard." And
Yeah.
most historians believe that he was the victim of impressment.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
because he was wearing ill-fitting clothing, and they believe that because you would knock them on the head to get them to do what you want.
You're talking about his death.
Yes.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
mystery
I recently
surrounding
looked that up when
And
we
they-
were putting
That's,
episodes together.
is that in our backlog yet?
It's not.
It's not, but it should be.
It's not. It is now.
Okay.
They think that he was hit a little bit too hard on the head, and as he was forced to go from voting place to voting place.
Right.
Because we all know
It fits the pattern.
Yeah, and
It fits the pattern of the
Baltimore is
impressment.
so above board on politics still to this day, right? No, we're Tammany Hall. I mean, let's be realistic here. Still, I mean.
Baltimore has an interesting history, that is for sure.
Yes,
There's
yes.
a lot of characters we could dig in there too.
Yes, your family can be accused of all kinds of incredible political crimes, and yet you can still rise to the top. Yes, this is Baltimore,
So,
All right.
how do you earn a living, if you don't mind?
How do
my
I earn a
asking?
living?
Yeah.
I have been
Krampus must
working-
not be bringing in a lot of money.
No, it's
For yourself, anyway.
more of a passion thing than anything else. I've worked for a very large hospital for over 23 years, and that's my main. That's what I do, and I do. Believe it or not, as boring as it is, I do finance.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm basically an accountant, which is hysterical because I'm sure that all of the nuns that beat me multiple times for getting equations were like, oh, you're an accountant, I've always hated and despised math, but I'm unfortunately good at it. So that's what I do for a living.
We all need resources. That's something we say often, and it's just true. We gotta earn the living, right?
Yep. We all get dragooned into doing something that's maybe not our passion, but allows us to follow our passion.
That's right. And speaking of passion,
let's get into that.
Yeah, let's get into that. So what was the aha moment, or what was the inspiration? What was the exposure that said, I am going to do this. I am going to become the Baltimore Krampus?
Well, I mean, I've been in acting on a side gig and just for fun, most of my life, just because I always enjoyed it. And I was very active in the SCA for a number of years as well, which I enjoyed. And it's just, I saw, that there were large Krampus groups throughout the country that were doing different. I mean, what I do here is it's fun, and believe me, a lot of people have a great time. But there are groups that have huge backing from people with very deep pockets that put these very elaborate festivals on in our country.
Okay.
And I was like, this is really cool. And then I read about there was one that was locally that was happening. So I went and I was like, this is awesome. This is a great time. And I went to that one for a couple of years. And then I'm like, you know what? I really, COVID came and theirs was canceled because of COVID. And I'm like, no, I don't want to cancel this. I go, well, it's out. We do it outdoors.
Right. Right.
And people are itching to get out.
We could theoretically stay 6 feet
and,
apart.
We mask and we do it outside. I'm like, I'm going to do my own, and,
right.
And I did it, and everybody came and had such a good time. And they were like, thank you for putting this on.
Really, like you said, people were itching for it, right?
And they were like, this is wonderful. And then I was like, of course, I was like, this is also very important for Toys for Tots, because that's another reason I didn't want to miss gathering toys. I mean, that's a year that, because when I was working with this other group, I said, hey, can we do Toys for Tots collection? And I brought that into them.
Right.
And then I continued that on. And I'm like, now more than ever during COVID, the kids, underprivileged children need to have some kind of magic on the holidays. And, I grew up very poor, so there were some very, very lean Christmases growing up. So I always swore that as an adult, if I could do anything to kind of help others, not do that. So I've been involved with Toys for Tots going on probably about 15 years now.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
And every year, my goal is to get more than the year before. So it's like I'm at the point now where I work directly with the regional coordinator instead of going to like the middleman, and she's just stellar. And I mean, I can't say enough good things about Toys for Tots.
That's fantastic.
If you don't mind, I give a quick little plug on them.
Oh, please do.
They
Oh my God, yeah.
That's why we actually, that was one of the reasons we had you on our list, was we were thinking, what do we do for the holidays? And I said, I know the Baltimore Krampus does Toys for Tots. We realized that our friend Angie here knew you, and we reached out through that. But we wanted to give you the opportunity to come on and advertise for all the good you do. And I know it's not just at this season, although clearly you're busy time, but something you do all year round. So
is there something you wanted to call out there?
A lot of people don't realize, but Toys for Tots is all year round.
Right.
Yeah. It's not just Christmas. Christmas is when they get their most donations and when they get their most notoriety, but they give toys to children who have been displaced through fire, through natural disaster. Anytime that children are in need of a little comfort and distraction from things that have not gone well and they've lost their belongings, they're part of it. There are big pushes for reading and books and everything else. So you can donate to Toys for Tots all year round. I tell people, if you ever see me at any event and you want to donate new unwrapped toys, I will gladly take it. And I will go straight to the Marine base that I drop them off at and take them there. And they're always very appreciative. And, another thing people don't really realize about Toys for Tots, and as opposed to some other organizations that do similar things, is this is the military. there's nobody being paid
Right.
a salary. There's no manager of logistics, any of that. These are all people who are volunteered to do this in the military.
Yeah.
On the side in order to make this very successful and to help children. So, if you donate, because you can donate online monetarily if you want. If you donate, $50, $20, it's, such a small fraction of it is going to overhead because these are all people who are already dedicated to serving,
Yeah, I think Mike Knoll, who's a Marine Corps Reserve officer, although he's retired, and a classmate of ours from high school. I think he was involved in this.
Yeah, that wouldn't
for a
surprise
long
me in
time.
the least. Yep.
And it's certainly an important part of my holiday tradition to always make sure there's at least one toy, usually more.
Yeah.
And often it's something that's got a Marine Corps logo on
I
it.
find it interesting to know that that they're collecting all year long.
Yeah,
I did not
know that
really
either.
realize
A lot of
that,
people don't
and
realize
that's
that.
a really good message. I'm happy to learn that
Yeah.
today, for sure.
I mean, another good organization, if anybody else for these holidays that looking to give to, I can highly recommend is the Salvation Army. If you look them up, look at how much their CEO makes versus everybody else, and look at the percentage of pass-through for donations. They make a pittance. Their employees do it out of love and kindness. And I could say, back when I was a child, my father was laid off. He was terrified that we were going to lose our house. We couldn't pay our electric bills. And he went to organizations like, I need help. I need help. I need help. Salvation Army stepped up. They were the only people. And they actually gave him a check for more than he asked for.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah.
And he's like, well, I can't accept this. And he goes, no, I want you to buy some presents for your wife and your child. And never forgot that.
Yeah.
And neither could he. So anytime I'm out anywhere, especially in the summertime, I should say, in the wintertime, and I see Salvation Army employees out there, I will put something in the bucket because that's another wonderful organization this time of year that really tries to help people out.
Yeah, absolutely. And we, start seeing their representation more and more, as we make our
bell
way.
ringers, yeah.
As we make our way around the town.
And I hear it's even more important now to give to the Salvation Army because that iconic bell ringing outside the grocery stores has been around for decades. I remember it as a child, and I still see them.
All of those people are volunteers out there.
Right. But, so few people use cash in the grocery store these days that the donations at that level have actually gone down because people aren't throwing the extra change in. So, definitely.
Who's carrying cash around these days?
Right. Very
But-
important.
Well,
message
donations
to
in
get out there.
general to nonprofits has really gone down dramatically.
Yeah.
I have friends that work in other multiple not that work in nonprofits. I on the side too, I run a small environmental organization that's not for profit as well. And for the past several years, we've gotten like nothing. Most of the funding is coming from my wallet for that too.
Right.
And other groups I know are just really struggling because people don't have the extra money
Right.
to donate. And some also, it's just there's been such a huge focus, unfortunately, in the psyche of our country of me instead of that helping others. And that's just been across the board. I mean, I think COVID made it even worse because, volunteerism has not come back since COVID because a lot of people just indulged on themselves during COVID and then they haven't moved back from that.
Yeah, I think there were a lot of unintended consequences
Yeah.
from isolating people, and I mean, as someone that works from home a large portion of the time, I can certainly attest to some of those consequences.
I was working nights, weekends, holidays, in and out of the COVID wards because the normal staff, which or union, were like, well, we want extenuating circumstance pay to come out of the COVID ward because and the hospital's like, no,
Right.
we're not doing that. So it's you other people. You see that little clause that says other duties is assigned? Well, guess what? You guys are going to do it. I was in and out of the COVID wards probably 8-9 times a day delivering PPE supplies to everybody in there because nobody else wanted to do it.
Right.
And I'm like, this is important work. Once again,
Right, yeah.
somebody's got to do it. We got to protect our frontline, doctors and nurses who are helping these people. They got to have fresh PPE.
Yep.
And I'm like, well, I'll do it.
Yeah,
So-
wading into the fray with all of them.
So I did that for the whole time that COVID was on at the hospital I worked at, and it was, it was lots of long hours. That's for sure. Because like a lot of people are like, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing that. I'm like,
Right. Well, things are gonna. Yeah. Well, there's consequences to all those choices that are out there. It's interesting, John, when you had mentioned the bell ringing, right,
Yeah.
and when it started. But we're talking about traditions here.
Traditions, yes.
We've got the tradition in the Salvation Army, and we've got the tradition of Toys for Tots and the Marines. These are all good things, but I think there are other traditions that I know we wanted to talk about.
I
as
think
well.
certainly
And
it's
that
good
might
to
be
get a sense
point,
of who
'cause
Mr. Long here
Yeah.
is, and that he clearly has a life devoted to service, and it's an honor to meet somebody who still has that kind of devotion.
I
But yes,
agree.
we did come to talk about
I
the scary
agree.
Christmas
Well,
stuff.
I know, and I
so
will.
Margaret Atwood that said, service is the price we pay for living on the planet Earth.
I'm not sure, but we can attribute it to her. We'll find that out and put it in the show notes. And actually, that's a reminder to me. If you've got information about your various charitable organizations,
We've got show notes that we
let
can-
us know. We can make sure that's
Definitely.
in there.
Yeah, we want to make
please
sure
leave
that
with
you
us.
can point to any links that you want to bring along. But and just while we're talking about characters, John and I bring our characters forward. John being the research person, so he will definitely find out where that and attribute quotes. 'Cause
Yeah, I
he
will
does
look.
it to me a lot. He's
will
like,
look.
"Is that true, Mike? Is that true?" And I'm like, yeah, sure. Well, we'll find out.
We'll find it. My wife's a librarian, so if I can't
Very
find
cool.
it, she
Yeah.
can.
That's right.
Between the two of us, we're dangerous. So why don't for our listeners who might not know, they keep hearing this word Krampus. What in general is a Krampus?
And why would we talk about it around Christmas?
Yeah, let's start there. And
Well,
then
Krampus is one of but he's probably the most well-known and most popular anthropomorphic figures that accompanies Saint Nicholas on his rounds. And I say Saint Nicholas, not Santa, because Saint Nick was a real person and he did a lot of good his whole life. Santa is a construct of poems and marketing, so on and so forth. So Saint Nicholas traveled with Krampus, and the two of them would go to every house. And on the 5th of December, which is Krampusnacht, Saint Nicholas and Santa would come to your house, and they would ask your parents, "Have your children been naughty?" And if they said no, they would go on about their way. And this is still done in Austria today in a lot of the small villages. They'll knock on the window, and the parents will either like beckon you in or
Oh, my.
wave to you, and you'll continue on. And I've had several people who have come up to me over the years that grew up in Austria, and they're like, "Oh my God, we're so glad to see this here. I remember this as a child." And of course they'd be like, "Well, I wasn't bad, but my brother, he had to come in a couple times."
What
never me. It was,
Exactly.
it was definitely him.
the come on in beckon sounds horrible.
So I learned about Krampus from a friend of mine who is of German descent, but he was an Air Force brat, and his father was an Air Force officer who was stationed in Germany for a long time. And my friend was there as a kid and encountered Krampus there, and he told me about it. I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Of course, he pointed me at the various YouTube Krampus lofts, the parades that go on. And now I try to extend that joy to new people every year. "Oh, you've never heard about Krampus?" Well, let me explain. So in my mind, the way I sell it is, you know how here people tell their kids, if you're naughty, Santa won't bring you presents? They go, "Yeah, I get that. I do that to my own kids." Yes. I said, well, in the Alps, what they do is say, not only will Santa not bring you presents, but there's a Christmas demon who comes around and can punish you. And then they take the kid to the parade where they actually see the Christmas
demon is
demon
walking through town.
And there are a bunch of them, and they'll pick you up and they'll yell at you and they'll blah blah. And my friends who've never heard of this go, "I don't what are you talking about? So I give them the link to the YouTube, and they see it. And they come back the next day, and they're shocked. That won't fly here in the US. I'm like, oh yes, it's growing.
I see you nodding, John.
Yeah.
That rings all true. Is that correct?
Well, it's funny because what we can do here versus what they do in Austria.
Exactly.
In Austria, they
Europeans,
set up a rope in a lot of the villages. And if you stay on one side of the rope, the Krampuses will just growl at you and menace you.
Okay.
If you go on the other side of the rope, they can beat the living tar out of you with a birch switch. And a lot of teenagers like to try and play chicken with the Krampuses. And they'll run in. The Krampuses will box them in, and then that's it. It's all over. And over here, they'll be, the lawsuit. But over there, they're like, no, you were on the other side.
Yeah.
Tough kid.
Your choice.
Enjoy those bruises,
That's great. It's like running with the bulls.
Yeah. But it's also over when they go to house, one of the things that's traditional is you would then pay the Krampus with a shot of schnapps. If he came in to do the whole, scaring your kids straight type thing.
Well, see, we laid out goodies for you.
Yes, yeah. You're not going to hear me complain. But the whole thing was back, if you were a little bad, you got coal.
Okay.
If you were moderately
you could still
bad,
burn coal and be warm, right? I mean, it's not great.
the
But,
birch switch across the back of the legs of the posterior.
oh, my goodness.
If you were horribly bad, he put you in his sack or his basket, depending upon region as to which one they used, and you were taken away, never to be heard from again.
Okay.
And Krampus is in different regions. There's so many different variations. Like sometimes he has one human foot and one hoof. Some he's got 2 human feet. Some he has clothes. Some he's just nothing but fur. It all depends on where you go. And same regionally. In some regions, he eats you. Okay. And in other regions, he just takes you straight to hell and leaves you there.
Okay. I was fishing for the eating part because you had mentioned that as like a zinger at the end of another episode, and I wanted to make sure.
Either way, depending on the regions,
So I'm guessing that's somehow tied to one of the other St. Nicholas stories, because isn't there, hopefully you know this one, isn't there one about some children that he had to resurrect?
That was Knecht Rupert.
Okay.
He was was St. Nicholas, but Knecht Rupert is another person that follows St. Nick around and punishes. He was a bad guy, and he had killed a bunch of children and put them in pickle brine.
Oh, my goodness.
And St. Nicholas resurrected the kids and basically, made Knecht Rupert see the errors of his way.
Oh, my goodness.
And he was so, upset at the person he was that then he pledged his life to St. Nicholas.
Wow.
And he
there's
traveled around with him.
Retribution stories. It sounds like a Grimm's fairy tale.
Yeah.
So where are these intersections
That was in the
happening?
17th century is when that tale came about.
Okay.
And he was, supposed to be, like I said, a lot of them, were different. There's Knecht Rupert, there's the Belschnickel, there's Hans Trapp, there's Pierre Fritard, there's Boumundi, there's Zwart Piet.
Yes.
Yeah.
All of them are people that in different regions and different countries, because some of these is Italy and some of this is Spain. And
even up into Holland.
yes.
And,
Where St. Nicholas has a companion, and it's basically it's the parable, for lack of better words, that if you're a good person and you work hard, you'll be rewarded. If you are a bad person, there's punishment. And that's something that, when the whole St. Nicholas morphed into Santa over here, it's like, they were like, especially with a lot of Christianity, they were like, oh, we can't have a demon. Oh, no, we can't have a Christmas. But he's, he's actually a Christmas devil, but we can't have that. But they still wanted the aspect of you will be punished for bad. So that's when they kind of morphed it into, well, Santa will give you coal, but it
Right.
wasn't.
And I got coal a couple of times when I was
And
a
you can
kid.
go on the list as sort of the stair step of consequences for your badness. Oh, you're on the list. And oh my goodness. Oh.
And we actually I actually this year for the first year I have a naughty list.
Oh,
It's
am I on it this year?
It's online.
We can
Oh,
get some
nice.
early access.
Oh, we can put
knowledge.
people on it.
That's right. You
Oh
could
my.
put and I tell people I go, please keep it like rated R or less. I don't want anything because this is
I
like
have a few candidates.
I told everybody on December 5th on Krampusnacht, I will publish the list. You know.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
So
I think we're scheduled to drop this episode on Krampusnacht.
Yeah, that's on the 5th.
On the 5th.
So
yeah.
feel free to anybody
Okay.
you know or
Wow.
yourself, and it's just it's a Google form, and it's you can say
Nice.
hey
I was going to
this
say,
person.
is it appear on the dark web, or is it? You don't have to. You don't have to go searching.
It's been a long 2025. That list could be.
it could be bad.
That's
Yeah.
what I keep on telling people. I'm like, don't you think the world needs more Krampus?
Yes.
I'm like,
I do.
Think
You
mean
about
like-
it
That's
this
why
way.
you're here.
Yeah,
I'm like,
consequences.
think about it this way. I mean, like, just imagine, man, if Krampus could actually do his job. Imagine, putting a young Hitler in your basket, never to be seen from again, or
If only it were that easy.
a young
Yeah.
Putin, or any of these, these horrible people throughout history. It's like, oh, I
Right.
can see right now you're going to be a bad egg. You're coming with me,
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's kind of maybe the origin of some of this, right? If only
Yeah.
we could wish them away and have the spirit of the deep dark forest come and grab them. and take
I
them
was
away.
thinking. I've never really seen the connection, but the what you said about how here in the U.S. we couldn't have a Christmas demon or devil that had to be said. I'm wondering if that's the puritanical strain that goes all the way back.
It
in
is
American-
because I
North
can tell
American
you
history.
that I have had event. I won't mention which ones, where I've gone to an event in a parade, and the people absolutely love seeing Krampus.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody wants a picture, but the parade organizers were like, "No, we don't want him back next year. He's too scary. We don't want, literally, they're like, no, you're not welcome back." And I'm like, what did we do? And we're like, you're just too scary. And then on the exact opposite end of the spectrum, I give them full accolades. The mayor's Christmas parade is like, hey, Krampus, we want you in our parade.
Well, there's a lot of
And we're even
naughtiness
gonna-
in Baltimore.
And we're
so-
going to put Krampus logo on the page for the parade because we want you guys here. And I'm like, thank you.
Yeah,
I
that'd be
appreciate
great.
that. I literally, if you take and you put me in one corner and you put a Santa in the other, the line to see me is going to be 3 times longer because children like to be a little scared.
Sure.
Yeah. And that's the whole thing. And I've had kids, that they keep coming up to me and they keep coming in, and the first they're frightened, but they're intrigued, and and then maybe they might wave from a little bit away, and then you wave
Like
back,
I did.
and then they might come up to me and they might want to do a fist bump, and then they keep getting, I was hired to do a 4-year-old's birthday party last year.
Oh my goodness gracious!
She is apparently, her parents are big into horror and stuff like that. And she was totally entranced with Krampus. And they said, hey, what kind of a party you want this year? She goes, I want a Krampus party.
That's fantastic.
So I was like, yeah, I'll come to your kid's party. And I brought her a couple little gifts and stuff like that too. And I'm like, and half the kids were like, and the other half the kids are like, this is cool. And then
Interesting.
more and more that were like afraid of me started coming in, and then they wanted their picture with me.
Right.
And they realized, I wasn't going to like do anything, to traumatize them. I was just there for their little friend. And this little girl, I've had my photo taken with her every time I see her at an event. And she started out at 2. I didn't even realize that when they hired me to do her birthday party.
Oh,
my goodness,
And
yeah.
She's been a fan for a long time.
and
Lifelong.
every year she gets a picture with me. She's like, "Can I get my picture with him?" And it's hysterical. She's so cute. And I'm like, I go, well, when she gets older, she, you got to get her a Krampus outfit. And her parents are like, oh, when she stops growing, oh yeah, definitely.
She's gonna have her own outfit. So
now I'm torn. I don't know if I want to pivot back towards why do we see the growth of Scary Christmas or talk about your costume? Because I know the costume is not an incidental thing to the Krampus phenomenon. It is very much part of it.
Very intentional.
Yeah, the traditionally and because my first, let's talk about the costume, but don't let me forget about the Scary Christmas.
Yeah, I didn't want to leave that either because I had questions about some of the graphic.
Let's talk. Good, because then we won't forget.
Yeah, I got it.
My first question would be: I know you have a couple of different Krampus masks, and one of them sort of a half mask where you can see your face and is probably a lot more approachable and probably more comfortable. And then the other one's sort of a very demonic looking one with the giant.
That's
horns.
the more traditional one, yeah.
Yeah, which one did you wear to this little girl's party?
That she wanted. I asked her parents, and she said, "Oh, she wants the big mask with the huge horns." So I'm like, our parents said it. And this little girl, I guarantee you, she's going some places. She is not afraid of Boo.
Good.
Wow.
And that's a very good thing. I mean, she's going to be one of these kids eventually that's going to be ruling the world. So, and that's we need somebody who's can stand, has a good backbone, and can stand on her own 2 feet.
Right.
And I applaud her parents for raising such a cool little kid.
And facing the dark side, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, facing fears is a huge part, and we've danced upon some of these themes.
I'll
in
tell
some
you
of our stories.
a quick good story about that. If you want a good laugh, I have always been, and I don't know what made me this way, even as a child. If something, I'm afraid of it, I'm going to face it.
Yeah.
I'm going to run straight toward it. Well, my cousin was having a sleepover, and I was about 8 years old, and my father thought it would be funny to play a prank on me and him. So I had a book. It was an iron rotating comic book stand. My father found it. Somebody had thrown it out in the trash, and he brought it home, and I had like my books and stuff on it. So it was kind of cool. I could, spin it around. So we're sitting there, and we're getting ready to go to sleep. And of course, because this thing is steel, it makes like this ungodly squeak when you turn it.
Of course it does.
And we hear this as this thing is slowly turning around. And my cousin's like, "Oh my God, is that happening? You see this? Is it moving?" And I'm like, looking at it, and I'm like, "What the hell?" So it turns about 50% of the way around and stops. And then all of a sudden, there's a glowing skull.
All right.
So my cousin is screaming
Great
under the
prank.
covers, going, "Make it stop, make it stop, make it stop." And, cut to the other side. My father's in there chuckling his head off. And then he starts hearing all this bang, bang, bang. And my father's like, "What the hell?" He goes, he thought that we were, trying to get out of the room or something like that. He comes into the room to find me with a baseball bat destroying the rack because I'm like, this is not getting me. I'm not going to let this thing. And, of course, my mother was incensed at my father.
Yeah.
Because he didn't tell her he was going to do this. And then, I've got in trouble for destroying the rack. But I'm like, what do you expect me to do? If some kind of a disembodied head shows up in my room at midnight, I'm like going to fight it off. I'm not going to let it attack
drag
me
me into the closet.
Exactly.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
A little combat there induced by Dad's
Never
pranking.
forgot that. That was one of those moments in your life that is indelled in your brain.
Right.
That's when they say when you pass away for the last time and your brain is shutting down, that what they say, your life flashes before your eyes.
Yeah.
Your brain is like a computer, and it's cataloging things one last time before it shuts down. And I guarantee you that's going to be one of the things that shows up.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like that's a pin, but I don't want to.
It is. I already got it. I have it pinned.
Okay,
Sure.
okay.
The life review, as it is known.
Let's yes.
Reel it back.
Indeed. Let's reel this back into
back.
the.
You've
So
got the costume.
let's talk. Yeah, let's
About
talk
the
about the traditional Krampus costumes because I know that.
I speak with a lot of people
Yeah.
thanks to Google Translate, like no tomorrow. People over in Austria and other Germanic countries, because 80 to 90% of them are like, "Oh my God, we're so glad to see this in America. We're so glad to see this spreading. You do a great job." And then there's the 10% who are like, "You're doing it wrong because it's not their way."
Yeah,
They're
there's
like,
always that
okay.
10%.
They're like,
Gotcha.
Krampus doesn't wear clothing. Krampus is all fur. I'm like, well, first of all, it's like, it's not 20 degrees for a summer high over here, you know? It's like,
That's right.
I go, I'm trying to blend German and American tradition. That's my whole thing. That's why I wear the red and everything else, which is more of an Americanization of Krampus.
Okay.
I'm trying to respect the original origin while kind of putting, and I've always thought to myself, put your own spin on it.
Sure.
And if you
Yeah.
look,
That's
like I
what
said,
America's about, really.
well, even in
Yeah,
Austria,
absolutely.
like I said, the different, sometimes he has 1 foot and sometimes he has 2 hooves. And
the
then
same.
there's like, sometimes there is sometimes he's got on like leather vests and jerkins. Sometimes he's just, it's like, there are so many derivations of Krampus just over in Europe alone.
Right.
I've
that-
heard chains versus bells.
Yes, I
bells
mean-
versus chains.
And sometimes,
Interesting,
and
yeah.
that's another is, you could get the chains. There's so many different reasons. Sometimes some people say the chains to show that he's bound to St. Nicholas. And then other people are saying that the chains are to take away the naughty. So it's like, once again, it's like there's no definitive answer.
So
Yeah, I was thinking Jacob Marley.
It's lost
I
in
think
history.
The chains
Well,
yeah.
the
of
bells,
what you forge in life, and Krampus is here to hand you the chains that you forged in life.
Yeah,
Now
something
well,
you
the
get to
bells
carry
are
it after
supposed
your
to
death.
act as a warning to the kids to be like,
Oh,
oh my
here he
God,
comes.
he's
Yeah.
coming.
Right.
That's the whole thing. And that's why, and then once again, those bells got transferred over to Santa because
Right.
that's the whole,
Yeah.
you got this whole thing where,
Yeah.
when they decided to invent Santa, it's like, well, let's take the best, the elements we like
Right.
and leave the ones we don't.
Right.
My costume, I've got several different costumes in it. A lot of it is based upon the event.
We'll be right back.
It's
Right.
so different depending upon who you're talking to. Oh, that's right. I was saying is in Austria, I have the 10% will say to me, "You're not doing it right. You're not, because it's not." But I've told them, I go, "Look, there's no defined circumstance." I go, I could talk to say, East Austria, and they could be, well, it needs to be this way. West Austria,
He's brown. He's
well,
black.
even
He's
the
brown, black, and
different
white.
the groups
Really.
over there are so different. It's
Right.
like in some, to be a Krampus, you can only be a young unmarried man. And
Right.
then in
Interesting.
other
Right.
groups,
Traditionally,
yeah,
yes.
and other groups, everybody. We don't care, it's just men.
Because
And
it was localized. It was
Correct.
village by village, often in
Correct.
the middle of the winter when they're completely separated from each other.
Exactly.
So their own tradition grows up extremely localized.
So everyone, that's why I'm like, there is no standard. So that's right. I remember, each outfit that I have is based upon, I guess you could say, pretty much necessity. I mean, if
Right.
I'm at the Maryland Renaissance Festival and it's 95
Right.
degrees outside,
And humid, because
I'm
it's
having
Maryland.
a prosthetic
Yeah.
nose and
Yeah.
and a mug, and there you go.
I'm wearing, there's one that I have that's a thinner material. It's still velvet, but it's like a thinner velvet. And I'm wearing just the hooves. I'm not wearing the full legs. I'm wearing, because I got more airflow and stuff like that. I'm going to wear the half mask most of the day, which the half mask allows me to eat, drink.
Yep.
People
Yeah.
can hear me more
You
easily.
can stay longer.
And but the other mask is more traditional, but it's heavy. I actually have 2 traditional hand-carved wooden Krampus masks.
Oh my
but
goodness.
Yeah.
I don't wear them because, one, they're very heavy, they're uncomfortable, and you can't hear me if I'm speaking out of a slot that's like this.
Yeah.
And once again, they're made for a different climate. They're not made for over here.
Right.
I made a very traditional Krampus outfit, which is all fur. Mm-hmm. I've been able to wear it 3 times because otherwise I melt.
Yeah,
and it's
interesting.
not been cold enough during like events around here for me to actually wear all the fur. I had it
Our
on.
Decembers are very mild for those listeners who might be outside of the area.
If it's if it's in the 30s, I can put it on and I'll be
Right.
good. But other than that, I am going to absolutely fry in that.
Yeah.
And then the next level up from that is the one where I have the full goat legs, and it's more layered because I've got more of a vest that comes down and it flows behind me, and I've got a much heavier belt on, which has a lot of bells, and that has all kinds of.
Yeah, talk about your bells, because I heard that on another podcast. But that was very interesting. So you've got bells from all over the world?
I don't want them to all be, the bells on my belt are all over the place. I pick them up from antique
I love
stores,
that.
or I don't want them to all be the same because I just think it looks. And it also, each bell has a different sound to it, and I want the sounds to be all different as well.
The image of the Krampus showing up, and he's traveled, and he's got tats from this port of entry, and he's got a bell from India, and he's got a bell from the Alaskan Inuits, or whatever. That just
and that's
seems
kind of what you
very
got,
cool.
right?
Yeah.
Is it you've got them from
Amazing.
Africa, Asia,
all over the place.
That's
and
awesome.
Antique stores, I pick them up. I've had people gift them to me.
I'm on the look for them now.
And they're like, "Oh, dude, there's a
That's
cool bell."
neat.
I thought, I'm like, yeah, definitely. I'll add it onto. I've got a leather-bound book which says "naughty" on it.
Yes.
And I've got one of the old-fashioned pencils looks like a twig and
Yeah.
has the graphite in it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if anybody wants to put their name,
That's
on the note,
stagecraft.
Yeah.
We know that.
And,
We know this.
This sounds like what I want to do with my Odin costume.
Oh, is that right? Oh, okay.
It's I've got so many different things. I've got a small skull. It's not real, but it looks like
Right.
child-sized skull, and I've got just all kinds of trinkets hanging off my belt, just to make it look more like you said, like it's been something. I didn't want something that looked like it was manufactured. I mean, like
right.
the robe that I wear, that's probably the most quote unquote impressive one, the one I wear. It was a old Santa costume, and what I did was it was like a pullover. I split it all the way up the front, and I added the fake fur to it because it didn't have it had like white, so I added like more of a brown fur to it all the way around because it did before it was just just kind of on the lapel area, and I added it around the cuffs, and I sold the bells on the cuffs and everything else. I aged it. I let it out in the sun. Kind of crinkled up because I didn't want it to be like a uniform thing.
Right.
I used a fiber distressor and distressed it in different places.
Yeah.
I wanted it, and it's funny because after I've worn it for years and years and years, it's looking more like that. I'm like, oh, look, there's a rip. I'll hand sew it up.
Yeah,
and it's like you
perfect,
could see the repair marks and everything,
Yeah.
that are real. It's just over
Good.
time wearing it. And
Well, that's the dedication that makes it real. That's why people keep coming back to it, because it's a spectacle, too, right? And it's an alluring one. There's tradition in it,
This is why the kids keep coming around.
and it struck me, over it's in one of the Christmas songs where they say, "And scary ghost stories and tales from the glories," right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, what do we mean? What? Scary ghost stories? What are you talking about? And then someone goes, "Duh."
Shall we pivot to Scary Christmas then? It's just the other thing. Why do you
very,
think?
very important in Great Britain still. That's
Yes.
a tradition that we don't do over here, is they would sit around on Christmas Eve and tell ghost stories. And I'm like, that's something we need to bring back here. I mean, because I think that's a great, of course we all know, the most famous ghost story of all around this time of year, A Christmas Carol,
Right.
aka Scrooge.
Yes. Well, it took someone to say, "Duh," for me to realize that's what they're referring to.
And there's, the funny thing, but there are so many others. I mean, there are books written about Christmas ghost stories.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are have a very similar theme. To, you
Got
know,
a whole
you need
stack
to
of
look
them
out.
here.
You need to look
John
out for the
Brown's books.
unfortunate. You need to, that kind of thing.
Right.
Or, it's supposed to be a time of giving around Christmas time. And that was the whole thing that's, we've kind of gotten out of control of. Back then, if you were a kid, you'd get a couple pieces of candy, an orange, something like that. Maybe a small toy. You didn't get like the latest PlayStation. And now some kids are just so, well, it's Christmas, I want this. It's like, no, it's not what it's supposed to be about. It's supposed to be, that's, one of the traditions. That's what I love about the Yule cat,
Yes.
Jolka Joblum, I love it. He's a giant cat that if you don't wear something new on Christmas Day, he will eat you alive.
Is that I'm trying. There's so many. I'm losing track. Is that an Icelandic one
Yes.
too? Like the Yule lads and
Oh, so this is
Rilla.
This is not an American meme. This is one from the lore.
But it's very important because I've talked to people from Iceland. They're like, it's to show the importance of hard work because
Right. All of these things have another meaning,
resources
a folk
are
meaning.
so scarce over in Iceland in winter, at least back
Yeah.
in time.
Yeah,
Where
they're very
you would
scarce
kind
in
of,
Iceland.
You would
Yes.
kind of, steal away a little extra wool, or and then when the kids are asleep, start working on a new pair of mittens or hat, and you would kind of do that on the and that was the gift because oh my gosh, you took all this time to make this,
Right.
but if the kids were lazy, or you had to do stuff for the children. That they weren't pulling their own weight, you didn't have the time to make this new mittens
Right.
So, if you went out on Christmas and you didn't have something new on, it meant that you were lazy.
Yeah, but not only that. Further back, it was a matter of life and death. You did not have multiple sets of clothes in your closet. You had maybe two sets, one clean, one dirty.
Yeah.
And if you didn't get new clothes at Yule at the middle of winter, trying to survive the next few months might not be possible because your clothes would be worn and they wouldn't be as warm as they should be. And
Well,
all these things are related.
It's all of these tales, especially in the in Europe and the northern colder climates. These were dark days.
Yes, literally dark.
You had to really work together, as a household or a community to survive the winter, which is why, it was so important to actually, help others. And, if somebody in your community was sick or something like that, if the community didn't come to their aid, they weren't going to make it through winter.
Right. Well, that's interesting you say cooperation because I was thinking, these are all about communities that have the need for that cooperation and for those that don't, impelling them or coming up with ways to punish those who didn't.
Right.
Was an important part of. And this gets into without going too far, right? We're like if a kid is never steered back into how the community behaves. Hey, that's not what we do. This is what we do, right? The kid then runs off and is a terror. A young kid that's just
we see
never
them at the
really
grocery
disciplined
store all the time.
Yes, we do.
We see these things, but these are stories about how you teach the values of the community.
Yeah, and and for small close-knit communities like that is a very important that everybody. That's why even and it is a little bit off track, but over in like the Inuit community. If you are no longer able to input. You would literally go out in an ice floe and chip away at it. That was it. Because you were like, I don't want to be a drain.
Yeah, now you're nothing but a drain on on
it's
your
not
loved
right
ones.
for my family. So, they would, and that was considered honorable and acceptable. And there are cultures like that that have very scant resources. And it's funny because the other day I was reading an article and they're like, there are all of these remote areas of Europe that are like, now we'll pay you to come live there because, the children are like, I don't want to live in this little community. I want to go to the city.
Right.
So you've got these beautiful historic villages.
Right. These medieval villages.
We
and,
could do this from Ireland. I think I've seen a couple of those.
Yeah, Ireland. We could have and you
Scotland.
You get one there.
Scotland.
I'll get the Italian town, the medieval town.
But we could podcast from a Scottish island.
Could. Are you kidding?
The Orkneys
Think
are
of
cold, but they're very remote from anybody who's going to annoy us.
Think
or
of
more
the local
importantly, me.
stories. That's right. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, this is fascinating. I love poking at all these historical topics, right, John? This is history. This is your wheelhouse.
This is why I'm here. We I don't know if you've had a chance to listen to any of our previous episodes or not, but we have an ongoing question amongst the two of us about are we a history podcast tinged by the paranormal, or a paranormal podcast that occasionally has to talk about history, and we're still not sure. And we
aren't they the same? One of the same though. I mean, you
Yes,
cannot
I think they
have
are.
the paranormal without history. I mean,
I
there are
agree.
so many. Basically, the fact that if people, you can literally use science to prove that the soul does exist, because they have done where they will have an individual on a very highly calibrated scale at the moment of death. And when they die, they lose, I think it's like, 8.5 ounces. I'm probably wrong.
Something like that.
But
Yeah,
there's
I
a
know that
certain amount of
story.
ounces that you immediately upon dying, boom. So there, right there, there's nothing has left the scale. Shows that there is something within us that leaves at death that exists outside of the corporeal form.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I mean, then, there are millions of debates afterwards as to, well, what happens to it and everything. Where does it go?
How do we interact with it, if at all?
And then, I know,
we try not to get into that too much in the podcast, because that's when he and I start arguing, and the quality goes down.
Well, he's the skeptic, and I'm willing to. My worldview allows a lot in, and of course, I like to see proof and evidence, but then there's just
we'll
not talking about it at all.
Yeah, we'll certainly talk about the stories. That's
yeah,
not a
we're
problem.
there. I'm right there with you.
That's why we're here.
But it's very interesting. I've always found the fact that, I mean, even we are energy. I mean, literally, we generate. I mean, there's a whole movie series, The Matrix, about that we generate power, and we are electrical beings.
We are electrical.
Essential. And I mean, the fact that, and I think Einstein or Tesla, I cannot remember, one of them, when they tinged on it, and one of their things where they were like, about ghosts, and they're like, if you think about it, I mean, if you forcibly force an energy out of somebody by like a violent death, isn't it possible that energy gets stuck in a wall?
Yeah,
or
we've talked
something
about
because
one of
it's
those-
energy. I mean, it's
Right. One of the ideas is the stone tapes theory, where there's a recording medium of some sort, a quartz, for example, just as one example. And then there's an energy playback. We're going to talk about this more as we talk about Ellicott City, which we've decided is a whole series of occasional episodes. It's not just a one episode deal, because there's so much going on there.
Well, and Ellicott City is interesting from the standpoint of just on evidence, so many spirits and ghosts and hauntings and stories. But then when you start looking into the stone tape theory, you also look at the geology of the area, the confluence of two running rivers.
Yeah, the two rivers.
Fells
they're in
Point
that
is very
gorge.
similar. Fells
Yes.
Point is very similar for the same reasons.
Yes. Well, speaking of Fells Point, and with what you do, and really, you're poking history by every time that you put the thought and the costume together.
Yeah, you're
and
actually.
you head out on the street. You are recreating it.
It's a living thing.
Have you had any paranormal experiences in Fells Point that come to mind?
In Fells Point, yes. As a matter of fact, and I could have the location wrong, but I believe it used to be Bertha's Mussels.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
On the third floor, the one facing the roadway. Months before, I had gone in Baltimore history and Maryland history tours, just great accolades to them. Wonderful people, great groups, very friendly, they use history as well as entertaining, adding in the more, I should say, ghostly aspects of it. And they had mentioned that on the floor, like during the influenza epidemic, that a little girl had been seen in the window who was very sick, and she was always looking out the window because she couldn't do anything because she was suffering from the influenza, and then she passed away. And people would wave to her because this little girl was,
Right.
and she was in a pretty prominent area, and still people will see a little girl in the window. And Bertha's Mussels, Bertha's has said, well, that's all the way at the top. That's just overstock. We never go in there. So it isn't like it's an employee that's waving out or anything like that.
Right.
Now, Bertha's been closed for almost 2 years now.
Okay.
So, last year, Krampus Law was over. I'm cleaning everything up and talking to people, and I just happened to glance up at the window, and I'll be darned. I mean, I can't tell you for sure it was a little girl,
Right.
Sure.
but there was a figure in the window, and I was like, and I looked at it, and I'm like, what?
Wow.
And then, of course, you go to get your phone, and you go, and it's gone.
gone.
You know, it's one of those things that I was just like,
Trickster element.
I know I saw it because it wasn't like it was like a,
Yeah.
and I kept focusing, so it wasn't like out of the corner of the eye. What's it called? The one where
Pareidolia.
where you think because it's the shape. I mean, literally,
Yeah.
I focused on it, and I'm
Yeah.
like, there's definitely. I mean, over at Ellicott City, like you were saying, the top floor of what's now the Forget Me Not Factory.
Yes.
Yes,
We're
that's
very
right. That's
familiar
the-
with that.
I was
the Opera House.
at the I was in a music video with Gail Herod, wonderful blues jazz singer, incredible talent, and the music video is Temptation. If you ever want to see it, it's an awesome song, and I'm in it.
Show notes.
And she, she was talking about ghosts and stuff like that. And we all kind of went to the judge's bench afterward to have a drink.
Also haunted.
Yeah, Barry Highland. And one of the officers was there, and he was like laughing. And I go, what do you think is bullshit? He goes, no. He goes, about once a month, we get a phone call telling us that somebody's broken into the Forget Me Not Factory.
Wow.
He goes,
Huh.
I think it's the 5th floor. He goes, but there is no 5th floor. There's a set of windows there.
Right.
There was a floor there at one time.
At one time, yes.
And that's where the actors used to
Yes.
rehearse back when it was a theater. And he goes, and they would rehearse by candlelight. And he says that people will see lights moving back and forth between the top windows. He says, all the time. He
Wow.
goes, literally, he goes, there's something going on. He goes, because we get the reports, and he goes, it's not like it's the same crackpot. He goes, it's different people. It's like, I think somebody broke into the Forget Me Not Factory. I'm seeing
Yeah.
lights up there. It's 3:00 in the morning, and they're
Yeah.
like, thank you. We'll check.
Yeah,
it
we'll
out.
go look.
Yeah.
Because nobody can even be walking up there because there's nothing for anyone to stand on.
That's
so.
fantastic. Wow, I've never heard that story.
No,
And
that's a good one.
I have
That's a good
I
one.
have talked to the owner of that
Yes.
location a couple of times and was like, can I please see the stage area?
John Wilkes Booth actually performed there.
I've heard that.
And rehearsed
Is
there.
that true?
I'm not sure.
I've
that's
heard that
true.
story. Is that true?
Yeah, the story floats around.
Right. Do we have? I mean, are there playbills that have him
No, they apparently some dates don't match up.
Oh, okay.
And I
I've heard that a lot,
hate to be
though.
the
No,
killjoy,
no,
but I end up being that
But
from
I
time
can
to time.
I can tell you for sure that what's a complete fallacy and a fallacious point is Edgar Allan Poe was never at the horse you came in on, even though they like to tout that.
But
Gotcha.
yeah, but there is supposedly activity there.
Right, but he was.
But it's not him.
No, he was never. He was not there. I'm good friends with Jeff Jerome, who he was for years. He was the curator of the Edgar Allan Poe Museum, and he's now the curator of Westminster Burying Ground. And
right,
he is probably one of the foremost historical experts on Poe that I know of.
Okay.
And he's like,
Also in our
no,
backlog.
absolutely no.
Interesting.
Everything, any found any evidence of him being at that particular location, but.
So that story was. I mean, what was the story of him being there? Like, there was a haunt of his,
No, they
meaning
just
like
said
he
that
went
that
there
was
in
the
life.
last place he was seen alive. And
Oh,
there's,
I see.
there's-
Okay.
and
There's
there's no official documentation.
But
Gotcha.
But what's interesting about all these stories, just to point it out, is that this is the paranormal story. The ghost story is trying to remember the history. That's the thing that why I enjoy doing a paranormal podcast, even though I think it's a history thing, is that in many cases it's not so much important whether or not Poe was there as it's an opportunity for the community to remember Poe,
Yes.
and make him vibrant today by attaching him to a property and a business that's in existence today.
that's one of my biggest pet peeves with the modern media, I should say, the modern movie machine. It's like, why are we going to make Freaky Friday for the 15th time.
Right.
When there are so many incredible stories by Poe, by Jules Verne, by H.P. Lovecraft that have never been made into a movie.
In Lovecraft's case, it's because they're unfilmable.
Well, I mean, there are a few of them that are just as timeless,
and they have been made. Yeah, there are Lovecraft,
but not
adaptations.
All of his stories.
Certain,
I've always said, like Hop Frog. I would love to see a theatrical presentation of Hop Frog. By Poe.
Yeah,
and Peter Dinklage would be the perfect person to play Hop Frog.
Interesting.
Because he's got that continence. He's got that, that strength of character that he would. I mean, and H.P. Lovecraft, The Thing on the Doorstep. That's another one that could easily be filmable. About an older man who's come under sway of a young woman who then, steals his body essentially.
Yeah, that's interesting because we watched Frankenstein last night. Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein. It was very good, but I've seen the story and he put his spin on it, and that's fine.
Del Toro's tried to do some Lovecrafts on a couple of occasions. Some of them, and the short stories he's done have been okay. And I'm not sure he directed it, but he produced one of Pickman's Model for a series on Netflix that was outstanding.
The Cabinet of Curiosities, right?
Yes.
That was a great series.
Yeah.
So is it the case that are we in such a metric society where we can't, that would be a risk. If I went into the catalog of Poe, right, and pulled one forward, like the Cask of Amontillado, I would have loved to have seen, filmed today in a very moody environment. But if I say, well, this is a short story by Poe, there would be very little connection. They would say, well, isn't that we've got the association with the football team. That's about it.
Right.
They're not going to associate it with a story, and it's very risky to bring it forward. But if I do Frankenstein again, everybody's heard of Frankenstein.
Right. I'm
and Batman's
really
getting another treatment. And I like Batman, and I like those stories, but do we need another Batman movie at least?
That's
they're 4 years apart. How about 20 years apart?
If you're going to invest millions of dollars into a film, they want to have some sense of certainty that it's going to make back that
they
investment.
become art films,
right?
And they get the awards.
But if you notice, the ones that take the risk are usually the ones that become the blockbuster.
Yeah.
I mean, like when they did Mad Max Fury Road, everyone's like, "Oh, we don't need another Mad Max."
Oh, that was a
but they said
film.
such a spin on it, and the fact that won so many awards.
That was very good.
It should have won Best Picture that year.
And
that was a masterclass in filmmaking.
It was all true. The only thing that they used CGI on was the sandstorm, but everything else was all traditional.
I don't know why that would be a risk. I thought and just to tell another story.
Well, that's why it took so long to make it, because then the studio didn't want to put the money into it.
Yeah.
And it's like one of those things that and then when somebody takes a risk on some of these films, then everybody's like, "Oh my God, you got to see
do it
this
again,
film."
Take another risk."
I mean, Substance with Demi Moore. I mean, that was another one that they're like, "Oh, do we really want to spend big money hiring two major stars to do a horror film?" And look at the accolades that got.
Yeah.
I mean, because it wasn't just a horror story; it was showing the struggles of an aging starlet trying to stay relevant, and even the beginning, the euphemism where they were showing her star and how it went from confetti on it to trash in a number of years. It was just very well done.
And Eggers' Nosferatu last year, there was some concern like, well, this has already been remade once. Why do it again? But it was fantastic. And he was able to get that push through because he's been so edgy, and people come out and see the material.
Yeah.
I just thought that was a phenomenal film. I rewatched it again on Halloween, and it was.
There are just some
beautiful
films.
They're pushing. They're
exactly
pushing the envelope of the art.
And I mean, once again, many years ago, my then boss at Hopkins was away, and I had to go to an executive meeting in his place, and they were, all pounding the table and all like, well, we have to do this because the Mayo Clinic's doing this. We have to do this because the Cleveland Clinic's doing this. And I'm sitting there, and here I am, and I raise my hand, and they all look at me because these are all executives making six figures, which I'm like, probably couldn't afford their belt on a month's salary, And I go, I have a degree in business. I said, I learned in Business 101. I go, if you are following the leader, you'll never be better than number two.
Yeah,
I go, we were number one at one time when we innovated. I go, but if we're going to do what these people are who are number two, I said, number one, we'll never be more than number one.
Yeah.
Number two.
Yeah.
And they all just looked at me like I didn't know what I was talking about. And then they told my boss, if you're not there, don't send him.
That's incredible. Yeah. Well, they don't. Yeah. And that's it could certainly be the case that they just don't want to be reminded of what they should know. You know what I mean?
I'm sure it is, but it's like the whole thing. Like your Freaky Friday the 10th is never going to be a number one film. It might make money, but you're not gonna.
Well, if you think about it, like those the gentlemen you were having that meeting with, right? Above them is the board, and the board probably sends down the directive like no risks. Innovation is risk, right? And we're happy with being number two as long as I can, as long as the board can pull in X number of dollars. And if it's predictable.
But risk is where you make it.
Yeah, it's where the rewards are. Right?
I mean, it's,
the risks.
Risk it like throughout, risk in innovation in industry, risk in media, risk in music. I mean, it's, you're going to get these duds where people are going to be like, not really for me. But then you're going to strike a chord. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's the whole thing. Because I work with pharmaceuticals, that's my niche with the finances. And there's a 200 to 300% markup on most drugs. And, they say, well, that's because out of every 50 drugs of failures.
That's right. Yeah.
One. And that's why
the
there's
R&D
so much
is so expensive.
But you got to take that risk to come up with that new drug. If you didn't, and you're like, well, penicillin's always worked. We don't need to invent other cillins. But they understand that in the pharmaceutical industry, you've always got to innovate. You've always got to come up with something that's going to work better. But I feel like a lot of other places, a lot of other industries just haven't got that. And they've forgotten that you've got to take a risk.
Right.
I mean, look at Bezos. He was the one who took the risk, I'll deliver. Right. They started out with books, and then they were like, now we deliver everything. And people were like, you're crazy. People aren't going to want to do that when they can go to the store. But look, it was a risk.
Right.
Love him or hate him, the man, the same thing with...
He's a modern Sears, if you think about it. Well, he basically took the catalog model and just changed it for the 21st century.
I mean, Elon Musk has got this thing that's called the neural net. I don't know if you've read about that. I'm like, the fact that, so many people who are quadriplegics or have Parkinson's disease or so many brain ailments that this thing would create artificial networks for where yours are failing and be able to give you a life again. I mean,
yeah. Well, this is the step into transhumanism that we've already taken the step. The question is, how far do we go with it, right?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, if you think about it, we're already cyborgs if we can't be without our
cell
phone.
Well, if
for
you
more than 5 minutes,
offload all of the brain processing you need.
How many people at this table alone have a medical implant?
That's right. 50% of us.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. 50% of us.
And as we age, there's going to be more and more of us.
That's right.
Yeah.
And these are, synthetic material that's keeping us alive in one way or another, or making us have our quality of life. Mm-hmm. And, it's with that innovation, I mean, we would either be bedbound or we would have perished. Yeah. So it's just...
Yeah. John, you were going to say something? I was about to say something.
I was waiting to see what you would say, because I feel like we've drifted.
We certainly have.
Not that we won't find a way to use this material. But.
No. I like all this material because I like the idea that, one thing that we've never done is like a long format
conversation.
Interview. Yeah. I think this is great. But so speaking of risks, I mean, we've talked about transhumanism, we've talked about risks, but to kind of bring it around again, have there been any downsides, any risks that you've taken, or any consequences to being Krampus?
Well, there are people that, no matter what you say, they're like, oh, you're a demon, you're evil. I'm like, you can't convince them otherwise.
Yeah.
And some people are just so set in their beliefs. And I'm sure we've all run into them, that there's no amount of logic in the world. I think that, one of my absolute favorite authors, Samuel Clemens, was like, be careful when arguing with an idiot, because if outlookers will soon have trouble trying to decide which of you is the idiot and which one isn't. So it's like,
That's brilliant.
I've become to a point where like I won't even indulge people like that. I literally, on social media, I'll like try once and I'll go, actually, Krampus is not a bad guy. Krampus is the one who enforces rules. So he's actually the opposite of a bad guy.
You've pointed out he's lawful.
Guy. Exactly.
If you're thinking about it in a Dungeons and Dragons term, he may be
lawful neutral
or lawful neutral.
Lawful neutral.
Lawful neutral.
There's probably an argument for that.
Because
Please make it.
He's not good or bad. I
Right.
mean, he does a job. He looks scary. And everybody's like, well, why does he look like a demon? And I'm like, well,
because he's reflecting back to you what you are.
Well, that's
and he's paying his eyes fall on those that themselves maybe have become demonic, right?
Well, if you're also if
going to bring you back in line,
if you are going to fight evil, you want them to be terrified. I mean, look in the Bible what a description of a Bible. Look at the description of an angel. They do not look like these cherubic figures that, they are shaped like wheels. They have goat parses and bull parts and they have eyes everywhere and fangs. And
the first thing they say is, be not afraid.
And one of my favorite quotes from a little known horror movie called Legion. And I think it was Gabriel was like, imagine a creature created without a soul, whose only purpose is to fight and enforce the world of God, to kill, maim, and destroy without question. Would you want to meet such a creature? And I'm like, that's a great quote. But this throughout history, look at our military. They're supposed to look scary and intimidating. Are any security police officers, they're supposed to be intimidating. You don't want, somebody in a fluffy bunny suit going, oh, no, guys, you can't do that.
Oh, no, that's another episode about the Bunny Man.
The Bunny Man, that's
John, I just love that you know that.
And the Goat
John
Man is another one.
We did Goat Man.
Goat Man, Bunny Man, Moth Man. You could go down.
Oh, yeah.
Mind blown.
Jersey Devil, Snallygaster. I know them all. Believe me.
Oh, feel free to jump on with those episodes with us. Because
they
if you
are
wouldn't mind coming back,
oh
we'd
my
love
God,
to
there
have
are
you.
some interesting creatures, man. And some of the little known ones are even more interesting. Spring-Hill Jack.
Oh yeah. So do you think of Krampus as a cryptid or something else?
I think of him as a
cryptid
because you can say oh well, maybe he's a human in disguise. Well, you could say that with the other cryptids, but it's like, or is this the personification of their interior? You could go any way you want with it, but I like to think of Krampus as being in the cryptid arena along with the other ones, because I can't. Once again, I think it was it Marlon Perkins' Wild Kingdom, where he said, I hope somewhere, this might be his quote, and I'm sure you'll figure it out. Right?
John will figure it out.
I hope somewhere that there's a creature that nobody has ever seen and nobody ever does, and I think that's wonderful.
I like that.
That's good.
I like that a lot. I like that quote.
How many times have we hear in the news that they're finding extinct creatures that have been supposedly extinct for millions of years, but they're just hiding and they're in some remote area. And now that we've brought back the dire wolf, and I think that the woolly mammoth and the saber-toothed tiger are next on deck, because they haven't been gone millions. They've been gone thousands of years. So the genetics is still close enough that they can be with living relatives. And I
Yeah,
know
they
that-
have supposedly some uncorrupted DNA for a woolly mammoth.
And another one is that's even more recent is they're talking about the dodo bird. You know,
Right.
the dodo bird has only been gone since the 1800s.
Right.
Or the Illicene has only been gone since the 1800s. I mean, these are creatures that we had a hand in their extinction. And I mean, look at the buffalo. The buffalo were almost extinct, and thank goodness, people like Teddy Roosevelt stepped in and set up preserves for them, and now they're thriving again. you know?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
you raised some interesting issues there that we probably will circle back to in some future time. Yeah, there's a lot of questions about the dire wolf and whether or not it really is a dire wolf or just a dog that's been made to look like. But
And
they're
then also
fascinating
just in the
issues.
cryptid, we touched upon a lot of stuff, but in the cryptid territory, right? What are people seeing? We were discussing earlier before you got here about the Susquehanna River and the cryptids that appear along the riverway. Some of them, to my eye, and I haven't done a lot of investigation on it, but some of them appear to be, extinct creatures slipping back through these portals. And portals is a charged area
Or I've
that
even
we've
seen-
talked about. Time slips.
I've even seen some people say that the Loch Ness monster
gonna say that.
is the
Thank you.
ghost
There
of
you
a
go.
plesiosaur.
Yeah.
Or that it's a
the ghost
plesiosaur
or
that
it's
is
one that's-
slipping back into the
Yeah,
space.
I mean, so it's
somehow,
the same
yeah.
thing. I mean, it's like, I mean, if you want to go back to using science as a basis again, what we can see on our visual wavelength is a fraction of what's out there, which is why, cats will sometimes stare at something like, I can't see it, they can.
You can see it.
And same thing with our sound
like Max.
range. What we can hear is such a small perspective of what
Yeah.
actually is out
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
So I mean, just because it's in our realm of perception or not doesn't mean it
Yeah.
doesn't exist. How many things, in the past where people said didn't exist until we proved
Right.
it did?
How about germs, right? We
the
had
guy
no
who-
concept of germs, and that yet today it's as common as you say. You look at your hands and you go, "I probably have germs on my hands."
Well, the
and it's like
doctor-
but you can't see it.
The
but
doctor
now we accept it.
who started washing his hands and instruments, they institutionalized him because he said he was a nutcase.
Yeah, yeah.
And he was like, no, there are small organisms that live on that's causing this sickness. And they were like, no, you're insane. And the guy was just brilliant.
Yeah. Well, I like what you said, in the quote that you made. There's a certain point where there are people that are just blind to seeing even proof that's brought forward. There is, if your worldview does not include it, you'll deny it.
Yeah.
And there are so many areas, and John and I talk about this a lot because when you're dealing with the paranormal, these are really just like you have indicated. These are just new scientific discoveries that we have not figured out yet. These are areas of questioning that we don't even know how to question them yet.
I mean, Einstein's theory of energy, matter cannot be created nor can it be destroyed. So, I mean, and we've already said that once you die, there's a weight. And there's something that leaves the body's physical form. Where does that go? It goes somewhere. It doesn't get destroyed. I mean, all energy still exists in one form or another. So,
Changes form.
I mean, that's the whole thing. Is
Right.
if you want
Conservation
to
of
just
energy.
go straight for science, there's your scientific thing right there. Is that energy that was your consciousness or that was your soul, whatever you want to call it, it's gone somewhere.
Yeah.
Now where? That's the question.
Yeah, and there are a lot of theories and a lot of experimentation that's moving towards the concept of an information field, and you could call it a biofield.
Volksgeist.
Yeah, right. That this information is just, or rather, right, it turns into information. And it's a field that surrounds us, and it's and there's a lot of argument that says that your genetics are only a small portion of the evolutionary information that's used to move species through into their next evolution, into their next morphology. It's not just the genetics, and I say that because you have geneticists that are saying we cannot determine where on the genetic code that morphology exists.
Well, I mean,
and it can't
there's
be
a
produced.
percentage of our DNA that they can't attribute to anything else on this planet. There are certain animals, like the octopus. The octopus, I think, has the largest percentage of DNA that they cannot attribute to anything else on this planet other than octopus.
Yeah.
And they're like, it came from somewhere, we just don't know where.
Yeah.
And of course, there's some people like meteor, it came from,
Yeah.
and, there are several people who go, well, after humans are extinct, it's going to be the octopuses that come up next because they are very smart and
well, speaking of current events, and I think this may be the last topic we can touch upon, but 3-Eye Atlas, there was I don't even mention this. Well, I know we've been talking about it a lot, but we were mentioning, I mean, but there's a theory going out there that it is a conscious thing that is hurtling through the universe. There are certainly it's anomalous, right? We know that it is simply anomalous, but someone was saying, well, what if it was a conscious thing that is comprised of everything that you would need to kickstart life on a planet? And there's the transpermia theory, or the panspermia, panspermia, that this is just a consciousness trying to steer itself, because it is conscious, towards a planet that would host life. And it may swing by the Earth, go, oh, no, there's already life there. I can keep going.
Well, they've said that there are
interesting
planets
thought, right?
and other galaxies that are sustainable to life as we know it. And once again, we have such a narrow concept of life. I mean, there are other galaxies that could, just because we're carbon-based, that could be silicon-based.
That's right.
We have no concept, and just because it's not in our concept doesn't mean it doesn't exist. I mean, I mean, it's like I think that this Carl Sagan, who says saying that aliens don't exist is like going to the ocean and taking a teaspoon out and looking at it and going, I don't see any sharks in here. Sharks don't exist. And throwing it back in.
I believe you're right on that one, by the way.
Right. Yeah. So speaking of sightings and cryptids and stuff like that, what's the next supposed sighting location for Krampus? Where are you going to be next? What's the next event coming up? Right.
Well, the next event coming up for us is going to be our Krampus Yule Market. And that is going to be in Dundalk, and that is it's free to attend. And I think that, to me, I mean, it's just my own little theory that if you're going to have people come and spend money, I don't want to charge them for the right to spend money. So I'm going to have them ask people if they can to bring a new unwrapped toy as their fee. If they can't afford it, they can still come in.
Right.
But last year we filled up 3 vans worth of toys at this event. Okay. Last year was our first event, and we had so much overwhelming success. It is nothing but small, creepy, unusual oddity vendors. They are little mom and pa's that do this on the side, most of them, and I made sure, I got some of the big wigs, contacted me back when I did this last year. And, like the multi-level marketing people like Lulu Ray and Origami Al, I'm like, thank you, but no thank you. This is not the flavor. So,
so this looks like it's in November.
It is.
Okay.
It is November.
Well, this
22nd, 23rd.
Okay. Unfortunately, this episode drops after that.
But if they want to follow me, here's the whole thing is we now have over 125 vendors on our waiting list. Oh. So what we're going to do is, I've been trying to find other locations to do this multiple times a year. But, I've been not able to find a larger location that's going to keep it affordable for my smaller vendors, which is very important to me. So we're going to do multiple at small locations. So Laurel's House of Horror, which I highly recommend you paranormal people have them on. They're an incredible venue. Let me give them a real quick plug.
Please.
It's family owned. It was a former multiplex cinema in Laurel that was abandoned, that they reconfigured into a haunted house, haunted attraction. But here's the thing about it. One, when they did it, they didn't go buy plastic props and stuff like that. They went to auctions, and everything they have in there, they've got stuff from closed funeral parlors, closed schools, closed asylums, closed, and that's brought some juju in there with them.
Yeah. Oh boy, I'll bet.
But
a lot of hitchhikers.
All antiques is what they use to furnish it, and they every season, unlike a lot of other haunts, well, they'll move like a couple props around. They tear down the walls every season and change the entire configuration.
Oh, wow.
It takes you about half an hour to go through this.
Wow.
They're
really
not
committed.
They're not a bunch of little kids with black circles painted in their eye. These are professional haunt actors that the person who does their makeup, Mandy, is an award-winning makeup artist. So, I mean, these...
Fantastic.
And their costume... And it's a storyline. Every year it's a story, too. So as you go through, you get different pieces of the story. This place also, this shopping center, has got so much energy. The women's asylum was across the street from it before it was a shopping center.
Okay.
And the head of the women's asylum, decided to commit his own wife, who mysteriously wound up hanging herself, and then he married a younger woman.
Boy.
A lot of the paupers who were in the women's asylum were buried nearby, so probably some of them in the shopping center.
Goodness gracious. Now, this isn't Laurel?
Yes, the shopping center also, and I cannot remember.
So many good leads from these interviews.
The shopping center also was the site of a presidential assassination. He was not a president, but he was a candidate.
Right. I know this. This is before our time. Or it's like when we were kids.
And
Yeah.
the ATM at the shopping center was also used by one of the 9/11 hijackers to get money out right before this place has got some major juju.
Wow.
They do paranormal tours, and straight up, I've done it a couple times. I'm sure you guys know the cat balls for paranormal.
No. Sorry.
It's a very inexpensive thing you do. They have cat balls that do strobe lights.
Yes.
Oh,
okay.
And
Yes,
if something
I'm
touches
familiar
them,
with
the
that.
light
They
goes
go
off.
Okay, gotcha.
You
okay.
can
Yes. Sorry.
see that. They'll put them at the hallway, and you can see the furthest one go blink, blink.
Right.
And then a little while later, blink, blink.
Okay.
Like it's
Like something moving through.
towards you.
Yeah.
When you're down on the base floor, all the old projector rooms still up there. You will see stuff looking down at you.
Oh, my.
Shadows. Through.
Wow.
It's highly recommend it, and they're wonderful people. It's family owned.
Yeah,
It's
gotcha.
not, husband and wife bought it, and he was a firefighter, and he unfortunately died from complications of lungs from being a firefighter.
Oh, my goodness.
So his wife still runs it.
Wow.
And
Well, thank you for letting us know.
wonderful
There's
place,
great-
wonderful people to work with.
Yeah.
But anyway, you were saying, I got off track again.
It's quite all right. We don't mind a
But
bit.
one of the things I was going to say is we're looking to do another Yule Market, like maybe February and March, at the haunt.
Okay.
So once we get everything, then we'll contact vendors, and it would be like the vendors would be set up among the pathways of the haunt.
That's interesting.
So that would be
Wow.
a really interesting. And then the city of Hamden, who contacted me and asked me to run their Hamden Krampus Law this year, has asked me, said next year they want to do a Yule Market.
Okay.
So that'll be a third
There you
one.
go.
Well, if
So-
you don't mind, like I said, I follow you on Facebook. I can certainly repost your stuff as it comes up on
definitely.
our page too.
Definitely.
I understand the 6th is a date, right? The December 6th is a date of import, right?
Yeah, December 6th is our Fells Point Krampus Law.
Okay.
And once again, this is free to all, and this is a family-friendly event. We have costume contests. We have Punishment of the Naughty. We have a very talented musical band that comes out, which is the Greenbelt Honk situation.
Wow.
And we are going to have The Hexenbrot dancers, the witchy Hexenbrot dancers, they started last year and they're going to be performing.
Wow.
We have a close-up magician whose name goes by the name of Lord Anubis, who's going to be circulating through the crowds, doing close-up magic tricks. It's a good time. We have a naughty sack race.
All right.
So one for kids and one for adults.
Okay.
And it's also for Toys for Tots. It's free, but we ask if you can bring a toy and donate it. And now this year, for the first year since I've taken over, I'm in charge of the Hamden Krampus Law. So that's going to be on the 7th, going to be the very next day in Hamden.
Okay.
So the one is at night, which is the Fells Point one, and then the Hamden one is going to be during the day. And it's going to be a great time for everybody involved. It's a fun
And
day.
these are family friendly.
100% family friendly. All kids.
I know not all of your events are.
We only have one event a year, and it's because it's set in a bar, and that's why it has to be 21 plus. And that was last night, and it was very successful. We had a wonderful time. We filled a box full of toys for Toys for Tots, which is the goal. And that's the naughty night of the Krampus. We have one adult event, and that was because people have. Every year before I started this, people were like, "You have one for the kids. You need to have one where we can have alcohol." You know, what? I have no problem with that.
That's fair feedback for the adults.
Exactly.
You know, something for the adults to do.
Exactly, and that's a fun time. We have we had a costume contest there, and a spanking contest where the adults get to spank each other.
Oh dear.
Okay.
we can. We'll let the listeners use their imagination.
Yeah. We won't go into
We
detail.
won't help them. However, we might be able to. Well, we won't.
I'm sure there's a sound effect we can use.
Yeah,
we'll be posting the photos of that shortly. We've got our photographer.
That might not get reposted on our page, but I'll post your ads
they'll be
for the future
they'll be
ones.
Facebook friendly. That's
okay.
photos will, because
All
I
right.
don't
Well,
want
then we'll
catch
I'll look into it.
a ban, because God forbid, you show a human being, in their natural form. But you know what? We'll gladly take cartoons of people with their heads being run over and lawnmowers and people with their head in chopping blocks. But that's not offensive. But show the human body and
Right.
I've never understood that. I mean, over in England, you've got the page 6 girl, for goodness sake.
No, that's right. Yep.
There's a whole George Carlin routine about this too.
But it's funny because when I was in Ireland,
gem.
there was a commercial. I will never forget this. It was just on normal TV. This woman wakes up, no clothes on, gets out. There's a beautiful breeze blowing. She puts on a very diaphanous gown, which is see-through, and she pours herself. It's an orange juice commercial. She pours herself some orange juice, and this is delicious.
Pay attention.
And I'm like,
It's like, look at the fruit on her. Isn't that wonderful?
And I was like, wow, this is Ireland. It's like, we're not too troubled about stuff like that over here. But
Speaking of Ireland, you have another character, don't you? Don't you do the Leprechaun?
I do.
March.
Yes,
I want to make sure we mention the March events.
What?
Yep, I do the Baltimore Leprechaun, which is he doesn't have a Facebook page because it's enough work to run.
Sure.
But for one day a year on St. Patrick's Day, and this is my personal holiday, and I tell everybody, and every employer since the beginning of time, I've been like, this is my day off. Some people like to take their birthday off. I take off St. Patrick's Day.
Okay.
I start off at 6 o'clock in the morning at Sláinte Pub, which is open, where I have a traditional Irish breakfast, and I start with my Irish coffee, and for the rest of the day, I just go to various bars that are doing Irish themes, playing Irish music, and enjoy the music and enjoy the hospitality, and tell everybody, I get lots of pictures, people say, I had a picture of the leprechaun.
Yeah.
And I give out gold coins to anybody. I'm like, you caught a leprechaun, here's your gold. It's chocolate gold coin.
Fantastic.
So a little shtick just to have some fun. And I do that, and probably do that until the college kids start getting involved. So usually about 6 or 7 when they start rolling in.
Yeah,
I roll
it becomes
out.
a different feeling, doesn't
that's when
it?
before then, it's usually like a lot of more mature, retired people and people around my age who are just there to actually enjoy St. Patrick's Day.
They're there for the tradition,
than
the true tradition.
Like the breakfast, because there's nothing that beats an Irish fry up.
Well,
Then after that, I call my ride share because I'm like, I've been drinking all day, and even though I'm not intoxicated, my blood level says otherwise, and take my ride share home. So
That's awesome. Well, you've got Krampus in that head of yours. You've got a leprechaun up there. I'm guessing there's other interesting, ideas or characters that are in there. And not to mention,
This has been delightful.
you were willing to talk paranormal with us like the best of them. I
Yeah.
mean, seriously.
I'm a geek. I freely
Awesome. Well,
You know,
you're in good
there-
company.
It's funny because there's a Venn diagram. I don't know if you've ever seen it. There's this, and whoever came up with it is brilliant. It's like it's Renaissance festivals. It's paranormal. It's D&D.
Okay.
It's horror movies. And all of these things and intersect. And then there's also of course, one of those circles is BDSM, and
my
it's
goodness.
like all this stuff. It's like they've got it all kind of like, and I'm like, and you look at it and you go, yeah, yeah, I can see where everything kind of intersects in different places with this, but.
Interesting. We'll have to find that for the show notes.
Yeah,
and, let
I think I
folks
have
look
seen
at
it.
Have
It's
you?
probably on his page. but-
Interesting. Oh, okay.
But
I think
I've
I've
never
seen
seen that.
But
But
Lewis Carroll, and one of his quotes that I love is the one where he goes, "We're all mad here, but the most interesting people usually are."
yeah,
I agree.
Interesting.
Yes.
Well, very good. So, listen, John, we say it again, and we started off. Thank you very much for joining us today. We've certainly enjoyed the
Yeah.
Oh, I've
discussion.
enjoyed
amazing.
it too. It's a wonderful podcast. I can't wait to hear it.
Awesome.
And,
Thank you.
It's we're so bombarded by scripted media. I mean, or quote unquote, unscripted. I mean, there's
Yeah. Even the unscripted, scripted. I mean,
exactly. I mean, they've admitted that too.
Yeah.
I when I was a teacher, off the topic, but it's funny. One of my students was on the Jerry Springer show, and she came to me. The topic was, are you a teenager who has been very promiscuous? And
gotcha.
she called in, and they're like, they're like, how many guys have you been with? And she said like a dozen. And they're like, if you're willing to say 50, we'll fly you and your family out here for the taping.
Okay.
And she's like,
So
for
they're-
that, I'll say 50.
Sure, 50, right?
Okay.
And her,
50.
she's like, I'm getting a free hotel room. I'm getting,
Yeah.
so how many of them have called in? They're like, that's not shocking enough. But if you're willing to say,
Right.
we'll fly you out here.
Yeah.
So
we're trying to jump this hurdle. You're tame compared to what we're trying to shoot for. Oh, yeah.
I mean, we all wear masks. I mean, that's what
an
we have
interesting
to.
point.
Yeah.
In the day life, I mean, how many of our employers would be like, if they saw our real face, would be like, no. I mean, but it's, being able to do something where you can kind of put on your real face and where you can actually be with people that like here, well, you can talk about ghosts, you can talk about cryptids, or I could talk about D&D, or, I could, just, but you're not going to be, people aren't going to be like, oh, what the hell's wrong with this person, or judged. You're just going to, they're going to laugh along, and they're going to come up with something witty too. It's very freeing. And, I think a lot of people need that. And
I think that's why a lot of people tune in, right? They can listen to a discussion that is on the fringe and not be, ostracized for it, right? I mean, these are topics that the main herd doesn't really want to embrace, doesn't want to talk about, and in many cases would rather try and suppress it, or, and it's unfortunate because, that it's on the fringes where the horizon is, right? It's where the frontier is.
it's where
And
life is.
We got to ask those questions. And instead of writing off the anomalies, you have to embrace the anomalies and dig into them and find out what's there. And
my grandfather always said, life is a barbecue. He goes, you know what? There's a huge table with so much at it. He goes, you know what? I don't have to eat everything, but I can pick and choose what I want. And just because I don't like green beans doesn't mean I'm going to mock you for having a big plate of green beans. It's like, that's your thing.
yeah.
You know what? You're not hurting anybody.
Yeah.
And if that's your thing, he goes, just sit at the barbecue with everybody else, enjoy what you want, and let them enjoy what they want. And I'm like,
Yep. I'm with
I think
you.
that's great wisdom,
Yeah, and you can hear their experience with the green beans, right? It's not, I've been meaning to try them, but tell me about them.
Bingo.
So with that, again, John, we say thank you very much. We really enjoyed our discussion, and if if you're willing,
be
we
willing,
come back
definitely.
again, because it
Definitely.
sounds like there are a lot of pins that we drop.
Yeah, there's
that's
a
our
lot-
thing.
a lot of places
we
we could
drop
go.
pins. We're like, we're going to put a pin in that, and we're going to revisit it. So,
Oh, believe me,
we'd
like I
love
said,
to-
I've had in my my years, I've had a very interesting life that I've
Yeah,
been
I came
very
across.
I'm one of these
Yeah.
people that I've always been like you meet somebody who's passionate about something, and I'll be like, tell me about it. I want to learn. It might not be, but it's just to hear their side. Or like my whole life, I've always been like, you have a skill and you're willing to teach it.
Yeah.
I'll learn it. I mean, that's I learned sewing, I learned blacksmithing, I learned leatherworking. As I learned how to cook, I learned how to make beer, wine, mead. It's like
Yeah.
I want to learn. And hey, the world falls apart.
That's
I'm
right.
going to be a valuable crew member. So.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, and think about it. Mead and beer. Back when I would and taste those, right? They're great at barbecues. But well, let's bring this to a
Close it out?
Yeah.
Yep.
But,
All right. Well, I will say thank you as well, and
Yeah.
I guess that's.
Yeah, that's it. We're gonna wrap it up. But
That's a
before we
wrap-up.
go, Ange, thanks for the tea in
Oh my God,
German.
incredible.
Yeah, if there was any
German
tea.
China.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
it was a
Any little tinkle in the background, it was probably the China.
Yeah, it's our
Thank you
it's
for-
our
Thank you for the nosh.
It's our ancient Chinaware getting used, which is awesome. So
Okay.
thank you, Angie. I appreciate
Beautiful
that.
conversation. Thank
Awesome. And thank you, John.
Thank you for having me on board. And I definitely would welcome a chance to come back and talk about anything else interesting.
We'll
We've
set
got some
that up.
ideas.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, gang. Thanks for joining, everyone. We'll see you on the next one. Well, what did you think of John Long?
He was delightful,
Yeah.
and he was just so easy to talk to. I was afraid I was going to fanboy. I mentioned that right at the beginning. But-
news alert, you did fanboy.
Did I?
Right in the beginning.
Oh, just at the beginning.
It was okay.
It was
I think
okay.
it's fine. It
It
doesn't
was
bother me
fine.
at all.
No, he should
think
feel
it's
a little
cool.
bit flattered. He's doing
He
out there doing
should.
really great work and
Yeah.
deserves to be recognized.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, remember, folks, Toys for Tots, they operate all year long and always need us to help them out. So that's good too. We enjoy that. So it was a really good discussion and
Very wide ranging.
wide ranging.
Yeah, we didn't just stick to Krampus. I thought we were gonna,
know.
be pretty tight on that, but he was open to talk about a lot of things.
He
So
was.
I hope he comes back.
I think we're going to have John Long back as a guest, just like we're going to have Luke Myler back if he would come back and join us, because, it's fun to talk to people about these things. And so we'll probably have them back too. Yeah.
Yeah, we need to find some more friends.
Yeah, I think we do. And I
for other
have one. I'm
topics.
not going to give it away, but I found somebody that lives in a haunted house.
You did. Someone near my undisclosed location,
Yes,
my
that
underground
one.
bunker.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nearby your bunker.
My bunker.
Above ground, there's their house,
Yeah.
and they said it's haunted. So we're seeing if there's any way we can bring that person on and talk to that
Should we
person
bring
too.
them here, or should we go take all the equipment there?
Maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe
We'll have to
be
figure
our
that
first
out.
on-location recording. That would be fun. We'll see if the tech
It holds up there in the haunted house.
Yeah, if it breaks there, we'll know.
Yeah.
We'll know. So, yeah, folks, thank you for joining, and we're going to sign off on this episode, and, we'll see you on the next one.
And since this is dropping on Krampusnacht,
That's right.
lock your doors and don't let the demon in.
No.
The Christmas devil.
No. Oh, no.
Good night.
Good night.
Yes, master, I shall do your bidding as thy wishes.